our parents were a bit better at sacrificing. I think we're not. And I think a big part of that is because we need to be, and we're on social media, right? But we need to be on social media saying, or showing our house, or showing these people who walk in who do not give up. They're all judging you anyway. That I'm living in X house. It's all a wank.
So it used to take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to save up for a deposit for a home. Mm-hmm. Today, it can take anywhere from 10 to 20 years to save up for a deposit for your dream home. So what is going on? What's happening in Australia? Why is it so unaffordable? Mm-hmm. Why does that gap keep getting increasing? Mm-hmm. So this episode, we're going to expose that, talk about what's going on, but also I want to talk about the solution. So I think it's the most important thing. We hear a lot, and I remember seeing stuff online, people complaining, saying there's a cost of living problem, there's a cost of living, which there is to some degree. You know, if you look at goods and services have gone up tremendously over the years. And what I mean by that, you look at tobacco, you look at alcohol, you look at bread, you look at milk, it's all jumped up a lot since COVID.
Basket of goodies. Yep.
And housing, of course, has followed that trend as well, probably even more than, if you look at wage growth compared to housing prices. Housing prices have, done extremely well from a growth perspective, but unaffordable is true. It's there. We can't lie about it, but I want to talk about what's going on and then have a solution towards the end of this. So if you are listening, stay to the end because we want to talk about how we've done something completely different. Mm-hmm. We've thought outside the box and it's working for us. It's working for our clients. Well, I think we can share some stories about our clients, how we've helped them get their home in a different way of the traditional way. Mm-hmm. And times have changed.
Yeah, and I think I'll start my 2 cents on this because I don't know. Yes, housing crisis, you can call it that. I think the actual problem is that there's a spending crisis. There's actually a spending crisis. Now, why do I say that? Your first car was a shitbox. Your current car is a shitbox, right? But your first car was what, how much you spend on your first car? You got given to you?
Actually got given to me.
Okay. How much was it worth?
Oh, probably not even $1,000. My uncle got it for free, and then it was a little Honda City, if anyone knows what it is, 84 model, 1 litre engine. It was an absolute.
It was about this big.
I used to wipe off. I used to like drag Corollas and stuff.
Just be careful what you say here because you did a lot of bad things in that thing.
Oh, handbrakies. Yes.
Just be careful. It was about that big.
Lost my license in there 3 times.
We once fit 12 people in that thing, right? But anyway. Why I'm referring to your car, you didn't go out and buy a Ferrari your first car, I'm pretty sure. Nope. You got a Ferrari now?
Nope.
Okay. Housing is one of those things where people...
That's a hydrogen water, mate.
That seems to pop up every podcast.
People that are probably listening to Adrian, they're going, what's he stopping?
Pick that up.
People that are watching,
And that apparently turns you into a frog if you keep drinking it.
Do I look like a frog at the moment?
So you're starting to
soon. I'm starting to turn into one. Anyway.
It is the most bizarre thing. I want to
You want to smash that?
You can just drink stuff like this. You can drink water.
That is water.
No, it's not.
It's hydrogen water.
Anyway, property's one of those things. It's fucking strange. Everyone for their first property, my beautiful sister, God bless her soul, I try to get her to think a different way. She had to buy the best property she could afford, the first property that she bought. And exactly what you said, times have changed. If you stick around to the end, we're going to show you how you go about it in a different way. Still buy your home. But if times have changed, but your mindset has not changed or the way that you operate has not changed, then it's pretty fucking stupid in my opinion. So the difference between property and I go back to the fact, I don't think there's a housing crisis or a savings crisis. I think there's a spending crisis.
There is, but I think there is housing too, because if you look at it, it has increased dramatically, and of course we can't deny that. But I think yes, I do agree with you as well.
You don't have to live in the city.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in the best house in the world. Yes. You can get by. I know it's hard to sound, right? I know it's bad. You could live 50 kilometres from the city, and you could live in a shitty little apartment if it means that you're going to get ahead. You could, but you don't, because one. Oh, what's my friend going to say about me, or what's my family member going to say, or you need to buy your home because renting is stupid. Don't complain. That would be my position. I'm quite heavy on this, but let's go on with the podcast. I'll get fired.
So let's go to 1980. 1980, yep. 3 to 4 times it was household income for an average property price in Australia. 3 to 4 times their household income.
That's pretty cool.
So pretty crazy. And 1990 was very similar. I think it was around 5 times.
Yep.
So you can see it started the drift. But the average wage back then was $28,000 per year, which is $540 per week. Okay. 3 to 5 times the income was for, a price, average house price in Australia at the time was about 150K. So, different times.
That's pretty cool.
So it is. It's changed a lot. If I look at my parents, they bought a house for, I think, $110,000 in Melbourne.
Still complained it was too expensive, I'd imagine.
Probably explained it was too expensive back then.
Yep.
Property prices probably it's 10x since then, probably over $1 million.
Awesome.
Houses in the street probably go for more, but my mum's house, the condition is in probably $1 million.
Pretty cool.
So it's done all right. But back then you could save up, and they could, they complain, the old generation complained about interest rates, 17% during that time, during the 90s. But you could probably pay off that house in probably 5 to 7 years, which they did. A lot of them did.
That's hectic.
Which is pretty crazy.
Yep.
So, but since then, if we go to 2024, 25, and just go off the data, average income at the moment is $102,000 in Australia. Yep. Okay. Median house price in Australia is just under $1 million. Okay. And when you look at that, it's 9.8 times their wage.
9.8 times their wage. So it's essentially doubled. Doubled the amount of that it's cost to. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
People hear that and they go, "Oh my God, it's too unaffordable," which it can be, of course. Now,
sorry, is this Australia? That's just Melbourne.
That's Australia. Okay. Now, I want to get really into the crux of it, because when you start to look at Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and I only picked three capital cities because I did want to go on a big wind and pick every single capital city. Mm-hmm. It tells a different story. Okay. So if we go to Sydney, median house price around that 1.5 mil. Okay. But where it starts to look a little bit different is I started to pick LGA. So LGA is a council area. Of course, everyone knows that. You probably heard me. Let's go to Blacktown. Okay. When you look at Blacktown, 1.15 million is the median house price. Average income in that area is $109,000. 10.5 times the income. Okay.
Cool.
Doesn't sound that bad, but 10.5 times.
10.5 times fucking a lot.
Right. Fairfield, LGA, Sydney, 1.2 million. Average income is $81,000.
Cool.
Okay. 15 times income.
Yeah. Okay.
Gets worse. Let's go Bankstown. Median house price, 1.5 mil. Average income, $82,000. 18 times income.
Yeah.
And then last one, let's go Burwood. I haven't even picked the most expensive, suburbs, but let's go Burwood. $2.6 million median house price, $106,000 income, 24 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people hear that and you stop and you listen, the Australian dream, buy a home. That's what we get told. It's quite interesting. I'm getting married. Got a lot of visitors coming over. A lot of them are friends, a lot of them are family. They can walk into the property where I'm living. Nice home, brand new, it's 1 year old, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, blah, blah, blah. It's really, really nice. This is such a nice house, blah, 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 blah. You own it? No, we rent. Oh, you rent? Yeah. And you see their face change. and I look at them and I just sit there and I kind of like, they're looking like, oh, why you rent? And then you tell them this, you spill the story, and they don't get it, the baby boomers and the older generation. But it's because I rent, because if I was to own this property, it would cost me 3 times what I pay in rent. Nearly 3 times what I pay in rent.
That's 50 grand a year in rent?
Yeah, 50 grand a year in rent.
Yep.
This house is about 2.4 mil. So you look at it, you do the calcs. It's close to 3 times my rent. So why would I rent it? Why would I go? And I'm not going to buy it.
Why would you buy it?
And why would I buy it? So I'm not going to buy it. And I'm not going to go settle for something and say, hey, I can borrow $1 million and go get a townhouse down the road. It doesn't grow. It doesn't perform. What happens? You put yourself in this trap, and you might have to upgrade one day. Now your sisters won't go and bought that home. That might be their forever home. Fantastic.
No, it's not.
But it might not.
It's not.
Okay. And this is the thing. I was talking to someone recently. It was actually a prospect. Called up, was saying, oh, I'm looking at your ad, I'm deciding if I should invest or not. I'm about to buy an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment, a single father, he's got his child. And I'm like, why are you going to do that for? He goes, because then I've got stability. I own the home. And I started going, okay. But I go, because I don't think it's the right choice, but I'm just wanting to see your advice. I'm like, well, what happens if you buy a property? He was from Melbourne. I go, what happens if you go buy a property in Bendigo for say $500,000. I go, do you think that will grow more than your apartment? And he goes, yes. So I'm like, why do you want to buy the apartment? And he goes, because stability. I'm like, but I go, what happens in 10 years' time? That property hasn't grown and you want to upgrade your home. I go, do you want to upgrade? He goes, yeah, I do want to upgrade. Of course, I don't get too small. So I'm like, what happens if it hasn't grown? You put all this money into this property and it hasn't grown. You go to sell it. You go to buy a home. You haven't got enough of the deposit because it hasn't grown. What happens then? He goes, yeah, but I'm looking at this not as a financial investment. I'm looking at this as more of the emotional. I'm like, yeah, but you're not putting your family in a better position. And I was sitting there talking with this guy and then I got to a point I was
gave up halfway.
I just said, mate, that's fine. All good. You do what you want to do. Thanks for calling. And I just sat there and I'm like, this has got to do nothing about investing. It's got to do about your family. And the point I was trying to make to him, I'm like, mate, what happens if you can't give your family the house that they want, or you live in a better property because you haven't done the right financial decisions,
and you haven't put the time in. You haven't actually put the time in to understand it. So I actually think that we come from a bit of a privileged position here. When I say privileged, built a business, but you're facing this thing right now, right? Where your Mrs. Samantha, who I think we're going to get on the podcast, she, from the very get-go, from the start of your relationship, she's gone, no, we need to buy the house. Very important. Now, I think it's only because of your knowledge and the fact that you literally do this every single day that you've actually been able to say, darling, here's the plan. Here's why we're not going to do that. Because if we do X, Y, Z, we're going to be at X, Y, Z. The amount of pressure, and I'm going to maybe be a little bit rude here, but that's okay because rude is what some people need to hear. The amount of pressure that these people have from these idiots that know no fucking any, like that story that you just said right there, people walking going, oh, you rent, that people hear that all the time. People hear their family saying that. People hear their friends say that. People make financial decisions about where they're going to live, and they know that it's a worse off financial decision to appease someone who 2 weeks after you're dead and not even going to talk about you, right? Is fucking mind-boggling. The fact that you're going to put your family at risk for owning a home that you can barely afford just so that that person who walks into your house goes, oh, you own it? Oh, well done. They got no fucking idea what's going on.
No clue.
No clue. So if you're listening to this, you have to stop worrying about what others think. You need to actually do research, actually work it out. To like the fact that you know the numbers, again, we come from maybe a bit more of a privileged position whereby we know the numbers. You know that it's, we rent the property 50. If we're going to buy it and put a 20% deposit, it's going to cost us 3 times more. If you don't even have that basic understanding, do not make a decision. Actually break it all down, right? I don't know. I get pissed off at this because, again, I don't know if this is you don't have to live in a $2.5 million home. It works for you. It works for you because you're in a position where you can.
Of course, my position is different to most other people.
100%. But you could live if you wanted to, you could buy a $2.5 million home. You could go and buy a $5 million home, and you could be under your brain with debt, non-tax deductible debt, non-cash producing debt. You could be completely fucked and having one asset that you live in because that auntie or uncle who walks in goes, oh, do you own it? Oh, well done. Not knowing that every night you're stressing out going, am I going to pay for this thing? It's cost me $350,000 a year. You could do that. That'd be silly. Now, would you say that is a savings problem or a housing problem, or is that's an idiot problem where you just don't understand and you're just putting yourself and your family at risk?
Oh, I think the people listening probably agree or understand which one that is. So
you could live out.
True.
You could live out if you don't have to. Remember, people lived in much worse conditions. Us Australians have a very good way of thinking that it's boo-hoo, boo-hoo, we're fucking sad. It's not the case. You know you can live 50 k's from the city. You understand that you don't have to live where you are living. I'm not saying it's you. You understand this. But people who live it, you don't have to live in South Yarra. You don't have to live on Chapel Street because that's the Trinity thing and parties. I don't know what they do on Chapel Street. But you don't have to live in the best place. You don't have to do that. So it's a spending problem in my belief.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, I've got a friend, his name's Anthony, and I hope he watches this and listens to this and I'm coming from a good place. I said, mate, you can rent out your house. And if you were to rent it or sell it, you could rent the same house for literally probably half of what his repayments are.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, oh, yeah, but we'll go to another area because it's nicer. I'm like, no, but you're missing the whole point. Don't do that. You do it because financially, if you sacrifice and rent in the same area, it might not be the area that you don't love. It's okay. But you do it for 5 years, 10 years, you put yourself in a better position financially. Because if you can half your mortgage repayment, you save that, you can put that towards property, stocks, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You can invest that. Think differently. But people don't like the sacrifice. People don't like to feel like they're losing something. They want to feel like they're gaining something.
It's, you know what? It's all a wank. It legitimately is a wank. I think our parents were a bit better at sacrificing. I think we're not. And I think a big part of that is because we need to be, and we're on social media, right? But we need to be on social media saying or showing our house or showing these people who walk in who do not give a fuck. They're all judging you anyway, that I'm living in X house. It's all a wank. It legitimately is a wank. We need to, and exactly what you said at the end, times have shifted. In order for you and I, which we're going to break this down, in order for you and I to buy a home, in order for most of our clients to buy their home without a big debt on it or without debt on it at all, you need to do something different. If you don't do that something different, unfortunately, sorry, you are going to have to live the rest of your life paying off your home.
Just look at this. Let's go with Melbourne. Yeah? Melbourne's just as bad as Sydney. Melbourne, Stonnington. Okay?
Stonnington.
$2.2 million is the median house price, $114,000 household income, 19.5%. 19.5, sorry. Times.
Yeah.
Okay, Bayside, which is Old Park, Court, Melbourne.
Beautiful.
2.1 million household income, income, $101,000, 20 times. Monash. Yeah. Monash is, you could say it's like a white, blue-collar suburb, $1.4 million house price, $98,000, 14 times. It's only getting worse. So the point I'm trying to make here, you look at Melbourne, look at Sydney. Brisbane's actually not that bad. Brisbane's probably around that 10 times compared to Melbourne and Sydney. I'm not going to touch on Brisbane, no point. But it's only getting worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to go from 15 times, 20 times, 25, 26, 27, 28 times. And the scary thing is your kids are going to face this problem, and the way you have to think is completely different. And if people don't make a change, then they're the ones that they got themselves to blame, not the government, not the cost of living, not the inflation. It's them.
This is going to fucking ruffle up some feathers. I can already smell him looking at Carl behind the screen. He's going like this. This is going to ruffle up feathers. It is the truth. You guys don't have to listen to this. To be honest with you, if you listen to this podcast, you probably half agree with us, or at least you can stand looking at us for 30 minutes. So you're probably not going to be too far, but I'm sure this will ruffle up feathers because there is a truckload of Australians who think, fuck that, it's someone else's fault, it's not my fault. You're probably better off just taking accountability and saying, cool, yeah, maybe I have to live in Carrum Downs, or maybe I have to live in Craigieburn where rent's 50% cheaper, right? And maybe I have to live in a one-bedroom apartment. Maybe I don't have to get my cappuccino.
Hemp, chimo, whatever
that's $12 every single day. Maybe I don't. Maybe it is. If you want to do something with yourself financially, if you do. If you don't, keep doing whatever you want to do. Yeah. Live in South Yarra, buy a home, make it take up 60% of your income, keep spending every single cent and blame everyone else that you're not in a financial position and you're stressed over your head.
Yeah.
How do we fix this?
Well, I want to get a case study because I want to get a live example of a client, Pradeep, who have helped tremendously.
So you're going to go Carl and Snedge, our favourite?
Nah, we can go for them as well, but I'll go Pradeep. And I like Pradeep because one way of doing this is rentvesting.
Yes.
Okay? Rentvesting works. It works. Pradeep's a person that has worked for him. He's got 4 properties.
Legend.
Okay, he's worked off tremendously well and he's done extremely well. Portfolio's at $2 million.
Yep.
Okay, debt's $1.2 million.
Yep.
Okay, he's got about $670,000 of equity. How much his properties have grown by out of the 4. Okay, since he's purchased them.
He's renting.
Okay, in 10 years' time, if I just go off the average growth rate at 7% annually, $4.1 million. Okay, $2.7 million in equity. Okay. So he's got his debt will stay the same. Let's say it's all in interest only. By that time, he's got 50 grand of passive income. Now, my goal with Pradeep wants to keep rentvesting.
For good?
No shit. He wants to keep rentvesting.
What a legend.
Okay. He wants to buy, we've got an opportunity to buy one more property, so we're going to probably do that towards the end of the year.
He's fifth.
So probably take him to 2 million to 2.5 million, let's just say, in value.
So to go to 5-ish in 10 years' time, give or take.
From there, 2030 to 2033, we want to look at then using that portfolio to then leverage off to get into commercial. It's either we're going to sell off some of those properties if he doesn't have the affordability from borrowing capacity, or we're going to sell off, or if not, use the equity if you can to get into commercial. One of the two. He's already got $670,000 of equity there. Okay, so if you just let's say appreciate more, and we can get that to $1 million or more. From there, we can get something quite attractive that's then going to give him a nice passive income. Instead of waiting till 2035 to generate 50 grand of passive income, we're going to try and do that in the next 5 years.
Awesome.
So and get that from 50 grand then, and then take that to 100 grand the next 5 years after that.
I love it.
So rent vesting does work. It works for us. Works for the clients.
So sorry, that 100. So again, because there's two ways to look at risk. There's one person that's going to hear that and go, yeah, but that's not really getting me my home. And that's what people want. Emotionally, like I was saying last week in our stocks chat, I'm emotionally driven to buy stocks. People are emotionally driven to buy their home. There's something with risk. There's something with security on that. I would invite you to think of it in a different way. $100,000 coming into your pocket from your property portfolio in 5 years' time, that well and truly pays for your rent. That well and truly pays for your rent. I just want you to understand that. That essentially means that you've got a paid off home. Yes, it's someone else's home, but the way that you and I look at it, imagine not having to pay for any rent anywhere where you live. You're living essentially rent-free. That is security. In my opinion, that is a lot more security than having a $2 million home and it's got a $1.6 million debt on that thing. Because that means that you're tied to your job. That is very, very that is risky. Again, we're tied to our property portfolio now. We need to be able to, fund it, right? There's risk associated to that. We are essentially tied to our business because of that. We need to ensure that, we're still operating in the business because that is the situation. It's the exact same by owning a home. Owning one home that is tied and there's debt associated to that, that is a lot riskier than, in my opinion, than having 100 grand coming in from your
Australian
property
dream,
portfolio.
mate. That's the Australian dream.
Australian dream's a scam. Australian dream's a scam.
Next option is Carl and Snedge.
Next client, yep.
And then the option number 2 is you buy investment properties.
Yep.
You leverage them and get your home.
Cool.
Okay. I'll tell a story about Carl and Snedge. I love telling this story. Probably one of our first clients.
Yeah. Awesome.
We bought 2 properties for them in 2021. Mm-hmm. We bought a duplex for $340 in Townsville, 2021. And everyone knows what Townsville's done. It's done like 80%, 90%. It's worth like $610,000 now. And that thing was already like yielding. Back then, paid $340. It was renting out for $500 a week. Today, I think it's renting $650 plus per week.
That's so
Rental
cool.
yields through the roof.
That's so cool.
But during that time, we bought that property at $340. Okay, 2021. Same time, we bought a property in Rockhampton, a house for $340, I think, as well, or $320.
The golden days.
That property was yielding 7% from day one as well.
Golden days.
They already had a townhouse in Sydney. We said, okay, Carl, I remember them coming to us, actually Carl and Snedge. I remember Snedge was like, she was mortified of even investing because she was very scared. We said, listen, this is what the plan's going to be. Let's buy a couple of investments. They go, we want to buy that home in Wollongong, which is south of Sydney. All right, sweet. Bought these 2 investments. We held them for about 6 to 8 months. We looked at then selling their house. We got some valuations. We got some appraisals from the agents. They could sell it for X amount. I think it was in the 6 or 7s around there.
I think 7.
They sold it. Okay. They used that. They didn't have enough of the deposit to buy that home. They wanted to then buy I think it was just under $1 million in Wollongong. Went and bought that home. But what we did, we leveraged off the investments.
Gotcha.
The investments had grown. I think they took about 90 grand or some 70 to 90 grand as well. They used as a deposit. They bought that home.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
So when they sold their old home as well, of course, tax-free, took out the equity as well from the investments. They had a nice, healthy deposit. They put that on that property. I love it. Fantastic. Great way of how they got into that property. They got their dream home. They had a 4-bedroom house. I think it was 2 bath. Remember, it had a swimming pool. Remember the photo they sent us with their kids playing in the pool?
It was beautiful.
It was awesome to see.
And how much debt did they have on that? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think they put a 30 or 40% down.
Okay, cool.
So
it's
I can't remember. It was a while ago, but it was around that figure there. Okay. It was a nice, healthy deposit. And so that's just a different way of doing it. And they done it in a very quick time and good turnaround time because I guess we bought the right time in the market. The property's done well. They sold their property at, I think it was like the peak of COVID as well. So they got a good price on their house. And then they got their new home, which is great. But of course, there's sacrifice there. There was sacrifice there. You remember Carl and Snedge, how they were hustling. They were working out of their garage, selling pastries. They were working their day job. They had 2 kids. but they were sacrificing. They were putting everything on the line to get that home. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And most people don't see that. I'll tell the story, but now I'll tell you they're working in the garage, selling pastries, doing, working 2 jobs, and they're still doing that today. I think now they've got like a little e-com business.
Yeah, they're doing really well.
With cats, sort of stuff. That's fantastic. And I think that Carl said, he goes, you guys rubbed off on us because, you guys of your motivation. And it's like, fantastic. That's awesome. And if we can help people do that, that's awesome. So there's other options, and we've already listed 2 right there.
I think, yeah. Let's expand on this option. Are you going to talk about one more option or no?
Well, the only other option I could think of is really you go and buy the home now, or you do nothing. I think
cool.
We're going to touch on, but
let me just touch on specifically Carl and Snej, right? Because the option that is more the common option for us, let's say, in the way that we kind of run it, because Carl and Snej is a bit different. They still had the equity. They took the equity from the home. They put a 30-40% deposit down, which is probably better than the 20%. Realistically, they hold those assets. Like, let's say they didn't buy the home. They hold those assets for 2-3 years. They now just purchased their third property, right? Third investment. And then they sell the investments. And that's the actual route that we're talking about. You want to buy a $1.2 million home and you've got $1.2 million of borrowing capacity and you can buy the home. If you split that over 2 or 3 properties and those properties double in a 4 to 6 year period, that means you turn 1.2 into 2.4. You sell those investments down. Yes, your home's still going to grow over those 5 years, but you would hope that your investments are growing a lot quicker. 24% is the average, double in a 5 to 6 year period. You sell those investments, you then put a big chunk down on that home and you put a 50, 60, 70% deposit down. That is traditionally how we do it for ourselves and our clients. That's how you and I are going to be able to buy our family home. We're going to end up, our family home might be worth, I don't know, I think you want to get a nice big luxurious one, but I'd love to buy, a $2 million home, $2.5 million. You don't know where it's going to be in 5, 6, 7, 10 years time. You don't know. But for us, we're going to have to sell 4, 5, 6 properties, which have doubled in value. And that is millions and millions of dollars. We sell that portfolio down. Yes, you pay capital gains and you put a massive deposit down, if not pay the home off outright. Correct?
Yeah, of course. There's that way too. So like there's so many ways to skin a cat. So many ways. And if we touch on Pradeep's situation, he's got 670K of equity, what it's grown by. You take that, if you strip that back to 90%, which you probably could, you got about 603,000 of equity that you can use if you've got the borrowing, okay? So like if you look at Pradeep's option, he can just sit tight, do nothing, let the properties appreciate, let the rents grow, and then strip out that equity. Instead of buying that commercial property, he can buy that home with a nice, healthy deposit. Like if he's going to buy something for $1 million, which he can, at the moment he's living in Brisbane, like he can do that. And it can be tax effective too, because if he takes out the equity, it's all tax deductible, 100%. Buys that home, puts a nice, healthy deposit down. He might put a 50% deposit, maybe more. He might buy something 1.2 mil, put 600 grand down. That's half debt left. It's not bad of a situation, and then you can slowly start chipping away at it. Or you just keep sacrificing. Use the equity, keep buying more properties and push out that goalpost and say 10, 15 years. My goal is 15 years from now to buy that home. And me and my missus have come to terms, said this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, stick to it, and we're going to get there.
And I mean, the beauty behind this, right? Because there's 2 ways to look at this. Now, I know I said you can live in a 1-bedroom apartment in fucking Craigieburn or wherever you want, right? Far. That's if you have to, right? That is possible, right? There's been a lot of people in a lot less circumstances. But you over the next 15 years, this is the beauty with rentvesting, right? Most of our team rentvests, right? The beauty with it, you get to actually live where you want to live for a third of the price. You get to live in a $2.5 million home for $50,000 a year. That's still a lot of money. Yes, there's risk associated with this. Well, the risk is that your landlord says, hey, you're out after 2 years. You've got a 2-year lease on this. Right?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
2-year lease. I think you've got a good relationship with the agent. So like you're probably not. But if you do, yeah, great. You move to another place in 2 years and you get to live in the place that you want to live. So that is also the benefit, as opposed to, we can only really afford $1 million. Our dream home's $2 million. Let's live in this $1 million house, which we don't really like, for 2 years, and then let's move on it again in 2 years. In my opinion, the way I look at it, same level of risk, if not much worse, owning this home if it's going to cost you 3 times the amount. That's how I look at it.
Yep.
So yes, you're building up wealth a lot quicker. You're going to actually own your home a lot quicker if you do rent vest and you do it properly. But then most importantly, or equally as importantly, you get to sleep well at night. Me personally, if property costs me 50 grand, I'm sleeping better at night than a property costing me 150 grand just to own it. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Agree. So, moral of the story or moral of the podcast, the Australian dream, buying a home. It's you can say the scam, but it's out of reach. It's unaffordable.
I think
it's
so.
different times.
I think so.
So you're going to have to do something different. Start asking questions. How can I make money? How can I make my money work for me? How can I how can I reduce my expenses? How can I think a little bit differently? We've got a budget tracker. We track our finances. We do this. Now we've got a CFO that does it for us. Before, I used to do it myself. So every week, every Monday, I'll log into my bank account. I'll look at what I've spent, but I'll also set a budget for that month. So I would have a separate bank account, put money in there, and I'll say that's my budget. Let's say it's $1,000 for a fortnight, whatever it is I'm spending. And that's just spending money. Okay. I have another bank account that has all my fixed costs, like, rents and all that sort of stuff that comes out of that account. And I spend X amount of money for 2 weeks. But every week I would track that. And if I went into the red and I spent too much, why? Did I buy clothes? Did I buy too many coffees? Whatever it may be. I don't buy that stuff, but
Frappuccinos.
I'm just, listing out some examples there. Okay, got to cut the spending down. And the reason for that is a goal. The goal is X, Y, and Z for you, or whoever it may be listening and watching. So you need to start asking those questions and literally reflecting. If you don't want to, that's fine. Maybe this podcast ain't for you. Go keep doing what you're doing. But I'll be honest and frank. I don't really care. It's for the people that actually want to do something with their life and actually help their family.
I agree.
So I think this is not to tell you just go rent, invest, buy property off us. No, it's how can you do things better for yourself and your family.
100%.
That is the moral of the podcast. And don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about judgment. Don't worry about your family. They're going to give you a hard time. If you don't inspire to be like them, then don't worry about them.
I agree. And you are the perfect person to say that, because you can have, everyone, right? There's judgment everywhere. 2 things on top of that, just 2 final points. It's actually, you need to take accountability.
100%.
This is not, your financial situation has nothing to do with the government. It is a spending problem. It is not a savings problem. Yes, you just mentioned there the cold hard facts. Property prices are double compared to the average wage. 100%. But I'll go back to the first statement I made. You did not buy a Ferrari, and 99.9999% of people do not buy a Ferrari for their first ever car. Why the fuck do you think that you should buy the best house you could afford when you can actually buy your first house? Doesn't make sense.
And some people won't even buy the Ferrari as their first house, but they'll spend everything in their bank account to get a shitbox.
I agree. So there's that. The second thing, the judgment piece, it's a term I remind myself, I remind my partner, I remind you, I remind people who are close to me who are willing to listen to me all the time with. 2 weeks after you die, people do not even talk about you. There's probably just 10 people, your family, very close friends. 2 weeks. On the day of your funeral, people are talking about what they're doing on the rest of the day, right? What I'm trying to, morbid, I know. I like getting morbid. I like talking about death. There's nothing wrong with it. None of this actually matters. You need to worry about your family. You need to worry about you. You need to make sure that your husband or your wife or whoever it is has food on the table and you guys are actually financially free. That's one of our biggest goals. That's probably that's my core value, right? I need to provide for Christina and my family. I do not give a fuck even what my mother says, even what my dad says, right? I love them to death. I do not give a fuck about that. I don't care if someone walks in my home and thinks, are you renting? I couldn't give a fuck. Don't care. No one should give a fuck, because when you are dead, no one actually gives a fuck except for a few very, very minimal people. Do not make life decisions based off that, because we've done it before. We've done it for many years, right? We're now very different. So that's my 2 final pieces, accountability and no one gives a fuck. Good podcast.
Let's leave it at that.
Thank you.
If you actually like this podcast, please share this podcast with someone.
And the budget calculator, if you want it,
yes,
there'll be something.
Reach out.
Yeah.
We've got a budget tracker that we'll give you guys for free. It's awesome. We'll even give a free video on how to use that.
It's really cool. It is really cool. Frank and I used to use it. Most of the team uses it.
We send it
now.
to all our clients. Every client that signs up, they get that in their folder. It's a tool with a video and showing them how to use that. And we harp on it about it. So it actually does help. It helps and it actually works.
Yeah.
If you stick to it.
And if you don't, just go and, if you haven't learned anything, just go and buy a family home and just stay in debt for the next 50 years. And Yeah. If you haven't learned anything today, just do that. Bye-bye.